This is a sociological analysis of myths and urban legends by Quayland, Daisy, Lucas, and Lucia. This video is an assignment for sociology class, Introductory Sociology at San Diego State University. The purpose of this assignment is to help us inform on key issues related to sociology of the body. The positions being advocated may not necessarily reflect the opinions of the students developing this video. Thank you.
My name is Daisy, and I will be covering what a myth is, the origins of myths, and the social impacts they have. Myths have been created and retold for centuries and across generations. We each have heard many over our lives and have favorites that really resonate with us. I remember hearing them in summer camp and passing them on to the younger kids as I had heard it. My personal favorite is the myth of Uncle Wigglebottom. This is the myth that is circulated around the whole camp. It is said that Uncle Wigglebottom is all good things about nature, like the light breeze, birds chirping, and the soft green grass. Campers can send him letters that get put inside his mailbox. He has a cabin on the campus of the summer camp that is also a location of various camp activities. Upon doing research for this project, I saw that they recently revamped Uncle Wig's mailbox. So many more kids can continue enjoying his stories and building upon them with their imaginations. This is an example of the positive and inclusive impact that myths can have on groups. Myths are constantly evolving and traveling across the world while also having localized impacts. An example of localized impacts are the summer camp stories I mentioned. Those stories were only circulated in that camp, and the majority originated from there. I am sure that there are a few that are similar to others from other communities, just changed to fit the setting. Neighboring summer camps would have slight variations of the same story. This is an example of the myth evolving and traveling through people. One of my favorite questions to ask people that I meet from other states is their version of various myths, legends, and even slang. It is interesting to hear the slight variations in ways they are done or told from different parts of the country. There are many different ideas and styles of myths. According to W.H.R. Rivers in their paper Folklore, there are two main definitions. One is those including gods or people possessing abilities. The second are ones that center on the moral or ritual the myth is supporting. According to Britannica and their definition of myth, quote, not only used to warn against, but also used to justify, validate. Example, myths about sacrificing for a crop, therefore the culture is able to sacrifice in order to get a good crop, end quote. Both styles are prevalent and are used by communities and religions as reasoning for an act or belief. Myths can be culturally prevalent and impact behaviors, or they can be bedside stories. They are created to be meaningful and important to a culture. They are also used to ease people or help a person understand a difficult event like death or illness. The social setting, social events, environment, and who is in power at the time are all key elements of a myth. Each of these are crucial to understand the true meaning of the myth. If you change the social context or environment of a myth, it would no longer represent the same idea. There would be different social expectations depending on the situation, therefore changing the meaning of the myth. This accentuates the cultural importance and how the implications of each manifest in the myth. These stories play a key role in our socialization, defined by the textbook as the process by which individuals internalize the values, beliefs, and norms of a given society and learn to function as members of that society. Thank you for listening. Now here's Quaylen to give you some examples.
My name is Quayland, and a real-life example I'd like to provide is the Japanese creation myth of Izanami and Izanagi. We're going to analyze this myth in a short summary, gather info on what the story conveys, and see what real-life applications it has to Japanese society. Taking a look at a brief summary, we can see that the two gods created the land and sea and eventually started to have children. One of these children, named Kagutsuchi, was a fire god and mortally burned Izanami, eventually leading to her passing, where she was then sent to Yomi, the land of the dead. Izanagi tried to save her, but found her rotting, defiled, and covered with maggots. She summoned the souls of 1,000 Japanese soldiers and chased him out from the land of the dead. In order to cleanse himself from this encounter with death, he bathed in the ocean, which is commonly referred to as the founding of Harai, a popular purification ritual within Shinto religion. Harai comes in many different forms, with its main express purpose being for the purification of sin, uncleanliness, or pollution. The connotations of these words would be associated with things like bad fortune, guilt, regrets, and disease. Harai has become common social practice in Japan, not only being shown in places of worship and shrines, but even at more casual gatherings, events, and even at festivals. The social implications associated with Harai are clear and evident, and we can see it expressed in literature, music, and even architectural design. Thousands of active shrines stand today, and millions of those are in support of the practices. Some textbook definitions of Harai supports would be ideology, due to its ability to change your system of ideals, social integration, because many are raised through their lives learning about Harai and its importance, and it helps them sort of get acclimated to their community, and socialization for similar reasons. Religion is also a big part of this as well, being that this practice is so deeply interlinked with Shinto religion, and also non-material culture, because we can see Harai reflected in people's beliefs, the way they dress, etiquette, rituals, the list goes on. This is not all, but I've displayed some of the forms of Harai here, such as Misugi Harai, where you cleanse your body and soul with water, typically from naturally occurring springs and waterfalls, as well as Ohari Shiki, which occurs twice at the end of the year, or twice at the end of the months June and December, and includes a large gathering of individuals seeking purification. Some positive social changes that can be taken from these purification rituals are the promotion of good health, purity, and respect towards others, as well as selflessness and helping others when available. With my example over, I'm going to turn things over to Lucas to tell you more about a similar form of storytelling, urban legends.
Moving on from myths, I will now be explaining what an urban legend is. An urban legend can be defined as a story about an unusual or humorous event that many people believe to be true, but typically is not true. To put it more simply, it is a fictional story rooted in modern popular culture. They are spread through various ways, which include mass media or simply word of mouth. They usually start from someone experiencing an event, and as it continues to be shared, it also continues to be exaggerated and the story continues to be slightly changed. This would be an example of social globalization, which can be defined as an ongoing process that involves interconnected changes in the economic, cultural, social, and political spheres of society. Most stories can be viewed as either silly and entertaining or scary and disturbing. Although they can be viewed as entertainment, according to Britannica, folklorists believe that urban legends reflect the anxieties and beliefs in modern society. From this, we can infer that some social groups create urban legends in order to prevent certain actions or behaviors, and therefore are a social construction. An urban legend can begin with no real meaning and purely for entertainment, but evolve to have a meaning that encourages others to behave a certain way. Actions against those encouraged in the story would then be considered deviant. Urban legends are often viewed the same as myths, and they are similar in the sense that they both consist of stories being shared and passed down. However, myths have more meaning, where they often contain morals, origins, and divine beings within their messages. Urban legends are more often lighthearted, shared purely for entertainment, and don't have serious messages that contain morals. In modern society, old urban legends have been spread much more broadly and newer urban legends start much quicker. This is due to the advances in technology, which allow more people access to discover and start these urban legends. Technology has popularized urban legends, and they are often recreated for further entertainment. An example can be the trilogy of films, Urban Legends. The films base their story off of known urban legends, which make them more popular and known to the masses. Although urban legends can often easily be proven false, technology can provide a platform for them to be publicized. After being publicized, citizens often keep the story in the back of their head and refer to it later during their actions. This shows them being a social construction. Even though they can be easily proven false, society continues to believe them. For example, the urban legend Bloody Mary was popularized and many know it by the name. The legend is that if you say Bloody Mary 3 times in a mirror, she will appear and cause harm. It then caused many to become cautious in front of a mirror and try to avoid summoning it. Although it has been proven many times that this is false, many are still cautious and refuse to do this action. This shows how a story, even when proven false, can influence its audience when popularized. Urban legends have been integrated into society, and those who know of them are often influenced by them. They may act a certain way or avoid certain aspects of the story, even though it is a social construction. Now, Lucy will provide more examples to urban legends and society.
Hi everyone, my name is Lucia Mendez, and as the rest of The group was saying and mentioning, urban legends and myth have a huge impact on society, socialization, organizational culture, taboos, and social etiquette. Many myths display these effects on the community. One of these myths, which I also personally enjoy, is the Greek myth of Dactylus and Icarus. Don't fly too close to the sun. This story starts with Icarus, who was the son of Dactylus, who was an inventor and craftsman. He created the famous maze, the Labyrinth. The king at the time, King Minos, decides to imprison Icarus and Dactylus. And while they're locked away in the labyrinth, they decide to escape. Using wings that Dactylus constructed out of feathers, seed, and beeswax. Before they flew off, Dactylus tells the sun not to fly too high, because too high would make the wax melt and the wings fail. Icarus didn't listen to his father and became overconfident. Icarus was so overwhelmed by the feeling of flying, he started to feel like a god, and loved the feeling of flying so much his confidence grew to an extreme point, and he disregarded his father's advice and flew too close to the sun, believing he was invincible, causing the wax to melt and Icarus to fall from the sky into the sea and drown. Because he didn't listen to his father's advice, the myth gave rise to the idiom, fly too close to the sun and you will get burned. There are moral lessons and effects on the community with this myth. At first, you might think it's just a mindless myth of flying, but it has depth. If you must use your social imagination, the ability to see connections between our personal experiences and the larger forces of history. Textbook page 7. When we use our social imagination, we can see how our society views overconfidence, instant gratification, respecting elders, and listening to their advice. Since this myth is from ancient Greece, probably around the time period of 500 BC, it shows how society viewed many of their social standards and norms during that period. It is a reflection of the fears at the time and shows what society was like during this period. For example, it was normal to respect your elders and listen to your elders' advice. When you don't, you must face the consequences like Icarus, and many people took the story as a moral of respecting your elders. In the modern day, we don't have as much respect for our elders and can understand they're not always right. We might view this differently because how in different periods we perceive myths differently, based on cultural norms and society of the time. In modern day, some may think the myth means not to want more than you deserve and not to be a hothead and listen. These answers are because of how society views others and the taboo people have in our society. We're obsessed with instant gratification or feeling like godlike. Drugs, technology, sex, and gambling, although might be fun, there is a forbidden desire in our society, like flying to the sun. We are taught that too much is always bad for you. Our society disapproves of these things, but people lust for instant gratification from these things. We are taught that drugs are bad for your whole childhood, but then as an adult, people become addicted to the feeling of taboo substances, like Icarus flying. In our society, to do things is taboo. There are expectations and periods where it's acceptable. It's acceptable to drink every night in college because it's your party years, but as you grow, it becomes something you must moderate because it can steer you too close to the sun, as well as create a social deviance, any transgression of social established norms. Because the norm society tells us, we must stop our party years after college. Another example being too close to the sun, as well as being overconfident. Many people hate overconfidence and it's taboo to be overconfident, especially for females. This moral shows our social norms from different periods and how society values correct morals. Although there are many different ways to view things, we can view this myth as a positive social change as well as taking things in moderation, which can help many people. Our capitalistic world makes it so we want more and more, but this myth could remind us to be happy and satisfied with what we already have and not to go overboard with materialistic things and take things